Looking at the pack first, there's a pocket on the side here and a buckle here for a paddle if it's longer than the bag. Now Feathercraft supplies paddles that fit in the pack. They're four-piece paddles and they do fit inside. However, if you choose, for instance, a Greenland paddle, like this one back here, it only comes apart into two pieces. So you'd slip it through here and then under here. At the back are shoulder straps and a hip belt. And it makes for a pretty comfortable load once you adjust it properly to fit your own body. I should caution you here, when you get the boat, take a good look at how the whole kit goes together, because this is going to be your only chance to see how everything is going to go back into the bag. This is the seesaw. I'm going to take out a few things and put them behind me. I've set out all the frame pieces on the table now. Behind me are the pieces we don't need right away, the skin, repair kit, cockpit rim, and some of the other parts. This is the repair kit. In this are glue and of course some fabric for repairs, some lubricant that you put onto the inserts here if you're going to leave the boat assembled for a long time, and the instructions, the written instructions. Here we have the written instructions. And I suggest what you do with the video is just look at it a couple of times and understand the flow of things, and then consult the instructions concerning each step. I'll move up to the bow now, and let's spread out the bow parts, and we'll assemble the bow section. You can see right away that these parts are color-coded. First cross piece is number 1, up in the bow. Now I'll move to number 2 cross piece. There's a pin on each cross piece. It goes into a hole in a black plastic block that's mounted on the frame keel. We call any of the bars with white tape, we call them reinforcement bars. You can tell which way the orientation is because the white tape is always facing towards the bow. One other thing to note is that all the bow pieces have one colored tape. You can see them here. So this bow section is almost complete except for the foot braces. Just slide them on. There's a screw on this side and a nut on the other side. Orient the screw towards the middle of the kayak. One further thing about the foot braces. If you have big feet like I have, you can have limited foot room in here. What you can do is take the screws out of here and reverse this part. and then put the whole foot brace in this way. If you do that, you'll have more foot room. So I'll go back down to the stern now. In the stern section, the tubing all have 2 bands of colored tape. Like on the bow, the port or left side gunnel is red, and the right side, starboard, is green. The 2 chines are yellow and blue. These are spring buttons that I'm depressing. Number 6. Five. Once you've done this, make sure that any rivets on these tubes face in, away from the skin, towards the center of the kayak. So I'm just rotating these. One other thing, you're going to be inserting this frame into the skin. Make sure that when you do, that these reinforcement bars don't slide out or separate at the joint. Okay, now I'm ready to go back and open up the skin. Before I do that, I'd like to demonstrate how the extension system works. We'll start with the keel. Now this is an extension bar. We call it the keel extension bar with black tape. 2 in the stern, 1 in the bow. Let's assume that I've put this into the skin and this bow section has been inserted into the skin. So I put these in. We call this the vertical lever. It also is the stern deck bar. This is the horizontal lever. Notice how I'm making a lever out of it. I've taken these 3 bars back off the frame now. I'll just reach back and open up the skin. We'll start putting the frame into it. You can always tell the bow because of the label. It's important as you're sliding this frame that you get it into the middle of the skin. I'm just reaching forward, making sure that it's in the middle. You can actually reach into the hatch hole here and slide it forward. If you look here, you might be able to see the Velcro tabs that we have for securing the keel bars. There's one up here towards the bow. I'm just going to reach under the skin here, into the skin, and do it up. That's about right. Look to make sure that it's nicely centered. Now the stern. There's also a Velcro tab on the stern end. I'm just going to push these apart. At this point, I'm going to go back to this keel extension bar that I showed you earlier. The two tapes under my fingers here go to the stern, the one tape to the bow. And I'll lever the bar till the spring button pops up into the first hole. Let's do up the Velcro. Now I can do the two chines, yellow and blue tape. Notice that I reach under with my forward hand and I bring the bars together that way and line them up. That way they slide smoothly. I'm just popping it up into the first hole. Now I'm going back to the keel and spring buttoning. I'm pushing it up till I get it into the second hole, the middle one. Now, there's a third hole in the keel and there's a second hole for each of the gunnels and the chines. You don't use this when the boat is new, but if the skin ever stretches, you can extend it until it's to the final hole for both the keel and the chines and gunnels. Just going to reach back, get the seat sling. The seat sling has the caution label at the bow and a piece of Velcro on top. So this is facing up. Let's slide these gunnel extension bars through. Green and red. Green on the right side, red on the left. Bring them into the boat. Now what I'm doing is I'm just sort of scrunching together the seat sling so I can see the whole bar. Now I'm going to lever these together, I should say apart, just so. At this point, spread out the seat sling. And there's a piece of fabric underneath that wraps around the chine. Don't do up the Velcro yet, just wrap it around at this stage. Now, I'm going to turn this bar so it's starting to face down in this direction. Both gunnels I do that. I'm ready now to put in the number 3 cross rib like this. Before I do that, let me just show you how these work. We call these leg rests. They're Velcro at the back. Just place it over. There's one here and there's another one on this side. Now I'm going to be doing this once I've got the cross rib in place, but you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So these just Velcro together like that. It's good leg rests for yourself. Pin is towards the bow. So center the cross rib over the bars and just attach it at first. Push down on the two chines in the keel and then lean the cross rib back. And then engage the two gunnels. And then back. So now I'm going to slide it forward. These pins are going to be going into the holes in the black blocks. So before you try and do that, line the holes up. You can turn these bars. The chine ones, you can use the actual footrest to turn. These ones, actually they're okay. The keel, you can just turn by hand, or if it's very tight, you can actually swing it back and forth a bit using the vertical lever here. So, starting with one of the gunnels, we depress the spring button and slide these into place. That's got it. No, just one more. There it is. Now we can do the number 4. It's a similar situation. Again, I'm depressing the spring button. That's got it. This was our horizontal lever with red tape. I can attach it forward. This bent one with the red can attach to it. This bent one has the green tape on the starboard side. And then the two stern ones, red and green. I can look through here, make sure that there's no spaces. There are no spaces on the reinforcement bars. Join these up. Now watch where I put my hand. I put my hand underneath here and give it a tug until the spring button pulls up in the into the hole. And the other side. If you have any trouble, it's easier to go to the other side of the kayak and give it a pull. That went okay. Now, just one bar. I'm going to put it underneath and draw it back, and you'll see that there's a stainless steel pin at the other end. I push it into the hole in the cross rib at the top and then turn this. Now it's important that you do up these straps. First over top of the cross rib and then back. Then you have to look underneath here in order to do up the little buckle that's here. And then back. cinch it up fairly tightly after you've done it. At this point I can put the combing on. In 2005 we changed our combing. We improved it in a number of ways. The older combing was fiberglass and it was separate, and you had to put the fabric into a groove. It was a little more difficult to assemble. The new combing is attached, welded right onto the skin, and there's a piece of plastic to the bow and the stern that is permanently in the skin. And then there are these two pieces here that you slide on the underside of the combing. That makes it all nice and rigid. Also, there are two bracing bars, and they're on the inside of the cockpit here, and they go against your thighs. And we've actually improved the bracing of the kayak substantially. It feels very, very secure in there. So let me show you how we install this. To begin with, there's a strap here that is attached to the inside of the combing. And take that and run it over the gunnel bar, back on itself, and do up the buckle. Leave it loose. You just want a sort of a nice loose loop here. Take the bracing bar with these holes facing aft towards the stern and run it through the loop and into the hole in the cockpit, into the cross rib at the stern, and then to the bow one. Leave this loop fairly loose. To lock it in place, there's a spring button. Depress it and then just push this aft until you've created some tension. And we'll leave this a little bit loose until we've installed these pieces. Now, to install these pieces, let me show you on this side. There's a pocket underneath, and there's a little tab that sticks down. I'm just going to be opening the tab up, and now I can just slide this into the pocket until the webbing, which is at the stern, is the only thing that sticks out. That's all there is to it. You're all set. Oh, there's one more step. Once you've done all that, it's time now to tighten this up until it's fairly tight. And then once I blow up the sponsons on the boat, the whole thing becomes quite rigid. So now it's back to your original assembly video, perhaps a few years earlier, and we'll see you there. Okay, we can install the seat now. Buckles at the back. Oh, let me show you something first. This is an interesting part. These straps on the side allows you to have a beach chair. I'll show you what I mean. It's actually pretty comfortable. There's a molded plastic part underneath. And these straps actually can allow you to adjust the seat when it's in the boat. So the buckles at the back, let's do them up. Straps at the front go around the cross rib above the chine. Now let's install the hatch rims. Bow. Just fold the skirt of the hatch rim over the plastic part. We'll leave it open for a minute. And the stern. starting with the small end, stern part. Let's attach these with the Velcro. Okay, let's blow up the sponsons. One thing I see I haven't done is to attach the flaps under the seat sling to each other. That can be done now. It's kind of like a Velcro sandwich. Let's install the float bags. The boat comes with two of them, one for the bow and one for the stern. They're shaped for the ends. Feed it so that the front of it goes all the way through the cross rib up to about where my hand is. These bags are special urethane bags with covers of light nylon. Now before I inflate this, let me show you a couple of the other bags that we have as an optional equipment. This one goes ahead of your feet up to the reinforcement bars, and you can access it, the hose, through this hatch. Now I'm not going to inflate the sponsons, the float bags right now because of the time involved, but of course you would normally inflate them fully before setting out. And then secure the hatch. Let's go to the stern section. This is the same shape as the one up in the bow. Large, pointed float bag. So you would inflate this, and once it was fully inflated, you do this up. Now the float bags do a couple of things. They provide flotation, of course, but they also give support to these hatches. In the event of rough weather, that can be important. We recommend either you have float bags in here or you have the compartment filled up with gear, which also provides both flotation and support for the hatch. This is the main stern float bag. Again, it's optional, but highly recommended, especially if you don't have any gear. So you would inflate that. So that just about covers it. The boat comes with a neoprene spray skirt. You can get a nylon one as an option. And of course the sea sock. The boat comes with the sea sock. sea sock keeps out sand and grit out of the boat, and of course prevents the boat from flooding in the case of a capsize. I like it. I also find that it keeps me warmer, especially in the winter months of paddling. We call this a shipping bag. It's something new that we've just introduced. And with this bag, you can ship your boat. You would probably assemble it into this bag first, and then put it into this. The value of this bag is it's inexpensive, and the airlines are very hard on bags. So it protects the bag. And there's another advantage. There is enough storage room in this kayak and in its sister, the Khatsalano regular, for a 2-week trip. You have to pack well and with a lot of small bags. But this bag is relatively bulky. So on my trips, I don't take it with me. I probably will take it to a destination, but I won't take it on the actual sea voyage. I'll use this bag. This bag folds up very small. You can easily put it underneath the bow seat, the seat sling here, under the sock, and you'll hardly notice that you have it. One other thing, of course, is the sea wings. Now this is the Khatsalano S, and it doesn't come with sea wings standard, but we do highly recommend them. Well, that's about it. We hope that you have as much fun paddling these kayaks as we're having designing and making them. Thank you very much. Just when you thought this was over, I'd like to show you one more thing. How do you fold the skin up and get it back into the pack? First, take the sponsons and open them, sponson hoses, and set them outside of the skin. Then you can fold the ends of the kayak skin towards the middle, bow and stern. Okay. Now I'll fold it over about here where the sponson hoses are coming out. You might be able to hear the air coming out of the sponsons. I'm just closing the valves. Now, packing the bag. I've already put in first the seat face down to give you a little cushioning on the back, then the cross ribs, and then I've put the spray skirt over top of the fiberglass coaming to protect it and put it down. And I put the bow and the stern longitudinal tubes on either side. Now it's time to put the skin in. After I've done that, I can put in the remaining tubes on one side and some of the smaller pieces. And I finish off with the sea sock and wrap it around to protect the coaming and some of the bars. There's usually a little room left over for a life jacket or things like that. And that's it. Thank you.